We've got all this extra time to celebrate the Boston Celtics, so let's keep doing that. Plus, the Celtics mentality, what do they need to do upstairs, moving forward into the NBA Finals to win? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster brand, it's holiday season, drop Drew in the mix. And 3 from KP, no we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every day, Monday through Friday, with a free, fresh podcast that's dropped directly to your device. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. I'll explain why I'm laughing in just a second. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into that comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. Used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. And why am I laughing? Because in my preview little box as I'm recording this, Tom Westerholm is going full Kobayashi on some kind of BLT or something. I got Tom Westerholm with me. I'm just stalling so he can finish, like borderline dipping his sandwich into water to inhale it. But let me make sure. Let me see if we can get Tom here. Tom, are you ready? You've muted yourself now.
I think I'm good. No, I think I'm ready.
You're good? You good?
I think I'm good.
You're going to get the hiccups halfway into this?
No, I might have the hiccups in the second segment when I finish housing this, but yeah.
What is it that you're eating?
Chicken. It's chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, that was impressive. Thank you. That half a sandwich went down in about 45 seconds flat.
Listen, when you have a kid, and sometimes you just have to eat really fast because otherwise, like disaster. Sometimes you just have to avert disaster by eating insanely fast. Becomes a
very relatable content for parents. There are a lot of parents who are listening and they're sitting there going, "Yes, preach, Tom." You're very big with the parent crowd. You're very big with 7-year-olds who are listening to the show with mom or dad. So
I'm thrilled to hear it. Yeah.
We'll later on we'll get into this mentality. There's obviously narratives going around, and there's just nothing you can do to avoid it. Everybody in sports media is going to be talking about the Celtics now, which is we sit here all the time. We're like, oh man, nobody talks about the Celtics, and now they do, and you're like, oh god, I wish they wouldn't talk about the Celtics.
Do we say that people don't talk about the Celtics? I don't think I've ever said.
People do. They're okay.
I don't think I've ever said people don't talk about the Celtics.
I remember many years ago when I was listening to like sports talk radio driving to work in a previous life, and I'd be like, man, the Celtics have been so good. Why aren't they talking about the Celtics? And then now you start hearing them talk about the Celtics. Oh, it's because they're just absolutely horrible. But there's a thought out there, and we want to kind of address it because I think people are looking at the Celtics the wrong way. That's coming up later on. By the way, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase of last-minute tickets. Let's just start with we don't have to hurry to rush past the celebration. We don't have to stop the party because there's still like 10, 9, 8 days, whatever it is, before the game one of the finals. The Celtics traveled on Tuesday. We're recording this on Tuesday before the Mavericks game, by the way. So we don't know who we're talking in generalities here, because there's plenty of time to talk about that matchup too. But
there's a chance that tonight's game won't decide anything. Like, we don't know.
Good chance. That's right. Yeah. In fact, I don't know about you, Tom. I'm full on Minnesota. Like,
setting aside any amount of like, the Celtics would be rested and then another team wouldn't be. Dude, I don't. More basketball, please.
Yeah. Like, get us something to. It's a great opportunity for the WNBA to be like, hey, basketball exists, but also it would be nice to have playoff basketball continue a little bit. So go Timberwolves. We'll see how that ages. But we can still celebrate because I think it's worth celebrating these guys. And it's sad to see. First of all, it's sad that part of my job is to just read incessantly comments everywhere, because most of the people on the YouTube page are commenting are great. Like 99% of the people on the YouTube page especially are great, but there's a small percentage out there, and unfortunately they have the loudest voices when it comes to, like, I have one dude on Boston Sports Journal who's like, I don't know, I'm going to reserve judgment on Joe Mazzulla. I'm going to see how he does against the Mavs. Like, they've played what, 86 games, I believe.
Yeah.
And or 96 games, and the next 4 games are going to be the judgment on Joe Mazzulla.
Right.
Okay, good. Still, jury's still out.
I love that too, because it's also like the man has now made a conference finals and a finals in his first 2 seasons as a head coach, and no coach is perfect, right? Like, you can say what you, I mean, there's things you can pick on, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah, to your point, what are we waiting on?
First two seasons of a coaching career, conference finals and finals, fastest, like, maybe was it fastest to 100 wins, or one of tied, like,
the youngest head coach to reach the finals since Bill Russell.
Yeah.
That's been a minute.
So that should, right? Like, that should get a little, we're celebrating that. That's something to celebrate. Yeah. And you know what? That was a player coach. So no straight out coach has that. He's the youngest, just flat out coach to do it. Right.
Yeah. I think. I don't know. I don't know what came before Russell. I have no idea, but yeah, I can't imagine it was a lot younger. Yeah.
So like, I don't know what anybody's holding out judgment for, man. If you're still like, I don't know what kind of coach Joe Mazzulla is, then I can't help you. I can't help you. It's the jury's out. It's done. He's a good coach. He's a good coach. God.
Well, and I mean, that extends across, right? Like, I saw people, saying, like, again, we're talking about the loud minority here, but like, but you see people being like, I'm still reserving judgment on the Celtics. I'm still, and again, it's just like, all right, I don't know what else this team can do. Go 12-2. I don't know what their net rating is after last night, but before last night, it was like plus 11.4. It's like they're doing everything that they are supposed to be doing. And I think, setting those people aside, last night was cool. It was cool to see how much it meant to Jaylen Brown to win series MVP. That was really cool to see, man. Like, Jaylen, like, we've talked about it a million times, how obviously he's like the second best player on the Celtics, right? Like, we've talked about that a million times. But the second best player on the Celtics is a really, really, really good player. And to kind of get, like, just that, like, look on his face of like, me? Like,
that
was really cool.
Can I tell you, first of all, to answer your question, 10.8 is their net rating.
Okay.
After last night's game.
What I'm hearing is that they are cratering.
Yeah. They're 12-2. If you take all of the stuff that they have done, 12-2, NBA Finals, net rating historically good, 10.8. Coach who's gotten to the conference finals and finals in his first 2 years. You line all that stuff up, and people are like, "Oh my God, what a dominant team! What an elite coach!" But it's the Celtics, and people are like,
Well, here's the thing: if you take all that stuff away, if you take away the fact that they've been clutch, if you take away the net rating, if you take away the record, then how can you know if they're clutch or if they're going to win games? So. You got to think of it from both sides here, Karalis.
Yeah, that's right. The Jaylen Brown moment, to me, for a guy, and I said this a little bit in last night's podcast, but Jaylen he is very guarded. And a lot of NBA players, a lot of pro athletes are guarded with the media. No doubt.
Jaylen is especially guarded, though.
Jaylen is especially guarded. He comes out, he's got a face. He's got just trying to be aggressive.
He's just trying to be aggressive.
He's always just trying to be aggressive. All that stuff. And I love when people get surprised by something positive like that, because all of a sudden actual human emotion hits. And he was like, it took a second. You hear Max say Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen's like, oh, that's me. Oh, damn. And then, like, he comes out, like, he's like, because he's just in his head expecting Jayson Tatum.
Yeah,
right. He's expecting Jayson Tatum, and it's like, no, Jaylen Brown, like, oh, and then just everybody. But there's a picture that's I don't even know who took it, but he's got his arm raised, and he's got it tilted down and like all these hands like on top of him. That moment, that video of him just kind of raising that trophy, pure joy. And I'm all for it. And as I said in last night's show, as a guy who years ago was trying to put him in a box, and to see him bust out of that box through nothing but hard work, dedication to his craft, and all of that, I couldn't be happier to be wrong. And like the biggest compliment I can give Jaylen Brown is, I'm one of the people that you prove wrong, and you got me, and I applaud you 100%.
I'm one of the people he proved right. So let's go.
All right. All right. Good. Fine. Go eat your sandwich. Celebrate. Go celebrate eating, or you're being right. I'm going to go. We'll talk more about the celebration and the Celtics mentality moving forward when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. You are excited for the NBA Finals. How cool would it be to go to the NBA Finals? Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. Download the Game Time app. You got to use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase through the Locked On NBA code. Now, when you use the Game Time app, there are last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off. And it's not just sports, it's concerts, it's comedy, it's theater, it's anything in an arena, a stadium, a theater that is selling tickets online. You can get those tickets there through Game Time. You can go save even more money through flash deals, exclusive in-app deals, zone deals, which you choose the section, they choose the seats for you. You toggle all in pricing, and you can get no surprise fees at checkout. You can see it all right there. And they have a setting where you can see a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, so you know what you're going to see when you get there. Game Time. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Injury is what Tom is about to suffer trying to swallow half that sandwich. Still watching you there, Tom. Terms apply. Again, create an account at Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Locked On, LOCKED, Locked On NBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. I'm here. I'm going to be watching the reason we're doing this before Mavs and Timberwolves, because I'm hosting Locked On NBA to talk about Mavs Timberwolves afterwards. So you want my thoughts on that? Check out Locked On NBA. I'll be there tonight with Jake Madison talking about what I hope is a Timberwolves win. Tom, you good?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like a cartoon when someone takes like a Fred Flintstone size big like ham on a bone, and they just put the whole thing in their mouth and just pull out the bone, and they're like, that was good.
Yeah. No, it was tasty. I mean, like we can keep going in dad talk where my son had a baseball game. We had to hustle back.
I'm just saying, I in such a good mood. I'm finding this just so amusing and fun. So yeah. I mean, look, I want the people to feel what I'm feeling in this podcast,
which is amusement at me choking myself to death on my
phone. That's right. I'm going to telepathically, I'm trying to use the force to see if I can give you the Heimlich maneuver through the screen.
Yeah.
I'm still perfecting that.
All right.
So, all right. One of the things that you hear from the Celtics, not critics, or maybe critics or people who question, it's like, oh man, if they play like this against the whoever in the finals, they're in trouble if they play like this.
Right.
To which I respond, do you know the Celtics at all? Like, do you understand what their tendencies are? If we're gonna get on them for their tendencies, at least get what they do wrong correct. They don't play down to good teams. They don't go up against superstars like Luka and Kyrie and be like, yeah, I think we're just going to coast. They do that against the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton. They didn't play great, but they found a way to win at the end, okay? Which is progress. They look like that against the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell, right? Like those situations is when they get that frustrating, like, oh, guys, come on, right? Just come on, give me 10 good minutes of effort and put this thing away. Against the Mavs, presumably, I expect them, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Tom, I expect them to come out with a level of focus and execution that we haven't seen since maybe the Miami series.
Yeah, certainly. Right. Like, I mean, like you're in the finals. I think I think it's going to be different. It's going to look different. It's going to feel, and honestly, the other thing that I take a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of umbrage with, right? Like, I think like the Pacers were good. Like,
there is a level of disrespect that
there's a level of disrespect to the fact that the Celtics, I think the Celtics had a close sweep against a good team. And like, I mean, honestly, credit to them. They pulled out those 3 games that like they could have lost any of those 3 games.
Sure.
I think, talking about it like, oh, the Pacers could have been up 2-1 is a little much. Like, I think the Celtics, like, the fact that they did pull out those games, suggests that they probably were never going to go down 2-1, 3-1 with those. But regardless, like the Pacers are a good team. And yeah, the Celtics had, some trouble with them because they're good and they're chaotic and they play weird basketball and, they're kind of setless basketball where they just kind of run things and try concepts as opposed to plays. Like it's a very odd team.
Can I just throw this out there as you're talking about this? Offensive rating in the playoffs. And this is skewed because there's a couple of guys who have like one game and had like a few good minutes, right? But Miles Turner, 6th in offensive rating in the playoffs. Andrew Nembhard, 10th in offensive rating in the playoffs. Tyrese Halliburton was 11th. Pascal Siakam was 13th. In the midst, who's on that? Like Daniel Tyson's up there. He doesn't count. He's the only one game. So guys who played like Joel Embiid is first. Turner would be second, really, in terms of like playing, I'll say 6 or more games. Bobby Portis ended up, he had a few good games, right? So he's up there. But Nembhard would be 4th. Tyrese Halliburton would be 5th. Al Horford would be 6th. Siakam would be 7th. So we're talking about 4 Pacers in the top 10 of offensive rating. And Ben Shepherd is in there too. Aaron Nesmith is in there too, like just below. They're all near the top of offensive rating. I just want people to understand that they had a great offensive performance, outperforming everything. Like one last point, because I want to bring it up. Kevin Pelton on the Hoop Collective said it perfectly. Finally, a national person said it perfectly. In the game 3, he said the Celtics defense actually wasn't so bad. The Celtics dominated the expected points, which is the shots that you get. They have a metric. The shots that you get, what you expect, what your normal performance should be. The Celtics got much, much, much better shots than the Pacers. The Pacers just way, way, way outperformed the types of shots that they got. Credit to them, but that's what the Celtics faced, that they were going up against a team that not only took advantage of their mistakes, that just dominated their mistakes in a historical way.
Yeah. I also think that people are not completely taking into account the fact that we just watched a guy kind of break out into like Andrew Nembhard is like good, like full stop good. And like understood that, like Halliburton was out and all that stuff. But the reason the Pacers didn't miss a beat is because Pascal Siakam was like unguardable for the Celtics, and Andrew Nembhard looked like a future star. Like this wasn't a weak team that they just swept. This was a good team they just swept. So I think you know, like I saw a lot of people because I tweeted something about how like the Celtics are like exclusively won clutch games, like just because it just felt like they were kind of trolling everybody by exclusively winning clutch games after all the conversation about it. And like,
Yeah.
you know, some people were like, "Oh, great, they won all these clutch games against Nemhard and you know whoever Neesmith or whatever. Now they have to do it against Luka and Kyrie." And like, I hear you. But like, also, one, don't disrespect Nemhard. He's good. he's a good player. Two, like the Pacers can do things that the Mavericks can't do, and the Mavericks, of course, can do things that the Pacers can't do. But like the Pacers' offense was different. That was really impressive stuff. And yeah, I mean, like it is kind of funny to watch some of these Mavericks Wolves games and see the way they're guarding Anthony Edwards, and it's just like you cannot guard the Celtics the way they're guarding Anthony Edwards. This like blocks and elbow stuff. No, I'm sorry. You can't do that against the Celtics. That's just like, you know, 3-pointer city. Like bunch of stuff is going to be a lot different in the finals. And it's the danger of comparing series to each other, right? Like every matchup is so different. It's the danger of writing the Wolves into the finals just because they knocked off the Nuggets. That's a crazy impressive win. The Wolves are a really good team. They knocked off the defending champions, but the Mavericks are a completely different team. I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but one of my favorite tweets about the playoffs was from Steve Jones last year. And he tweeted something about how like the playoffs are like the thing that makes the playoffs is it's not how good you are. It's can you solve this very specific thing right now? And like that's I think that's so spot on for one thing. And number two, like that's where I think the Celtics are. That's the big question for the Celtics. Not like, oh, you weren't that good against the Pacers. How are you going to be against the Mavericks? It's no, can you solve the Mavericks stuff right now? And like
that's it.
That's the whole question, right?
That's 100% it. It's people think you just progress, and it's too focused on the team and not focused on the opponent. And the opponent means everything. We'll get into that because it's such a good point. We'll get into that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by, hi, Tom. Bye, Tom. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Crack Sauce. Crack Sauce, made in Massachusetts, made in Lowell, Massachusetts, by a diehard Celtics fan. So step one, this is how you do it. When a Celtics fan is selling you something, you support a fellow Celtics fan. If you love hot sauce, you got a dad, a brother, a male friend who is a dad. It's Father's Day coming up. Crack Sauce right here is the best gift, the most unique gift, and all made locally in farms like in Lowell, Concord, Drake, Carlisle. Some of these sauces are all single source. So one farm, all ingredients comes from one farm. That's like sustainable. That's, keeping local people employed. It's really just a high level, just great thing to do. The thing about these sauces, it's not just heat, which they do bring. Some of these do bring some good heat, but they are delicious. They are ingredients that you can use in your cooking. They bring different types of flavor profiles. Check it out at cracksauce.com. C-R-A-I-C. You get the story of what the crack C-R-A-I-C means. It's an Irish word, and you'll get 10% off with the code Locked On. Locked On at cracksauce.com. C-R-A-I-C sauce.com. You get 10% off. I'm telling you, you can use this in your breakfast. You can use this in Bloody Marys. Let me tell you, you can make a killer Bloody Mary with some of these sauces. It's just a unique thing. You'll have people coming over your house for brunch all the time. So check it out. Crack Sauce, C-R-A-I-C sauce.com, and use the code Locked On for 10% off your order. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's all this kind of talk. It's real talk. It's not fake talk. It's not fake arguments. It's real stuff. Go check it out 24/7. Turn it on, leave it on. Forget about the big networks. Just turn this on and have some fun listening to all of us, all of our local experts across the channel on Locked On Sports Today. All right, Tom. The point there about the matchups. We say playoffs is all about matchups. But the way Steve put it is much smarter because Steve's a much smarter person. Steve Jones, just follow him, follow Nekias Duncan, and listen to their Dunker Spot podcast. Those guys have blown up real quick for a good reason. They're super smart. If you want to learn, if you really want to learn the nitty gritty about basketball, just go listen to them. Listen to one of their podcasts. You're going to learn a ton. But anyway, that's the thing, man. You can look bad. And it's funny that any Celtics fan might be worried. Didn't we see in 2008 Celtics going to 7 against Atlanta, Celtics going to 7 against Cleveland? We bring this up all the time. And then all of a sudden Detroit happens and the Lakers happens. And it's oh, okay. One series doesn't carry over to the next necessarily, right? What you hope is something like Sam Hauser's shooting doesn't carry over. And you hope that maybe somebody's good shooting can carry over. But going up against Luka and Kyrie and their much more predictable offense, not that it's easier, but it's more predictable. They're basically saying, here's what we're going to do. Good luck stopping Luka Doncic because he has 2-3 options on these plays and you got to pick your poison. And he's a killer. Okay, fine. But you can kind of anticipate what they're doing rather than what the Pacers did, which is just haphazard, throwing a bunch of cards up in the air and being okay, pick out the ace of spades. It's just easier.
I love the Pacers, man.
They're so nuts.
That was so fun.
Well, I mean, we really are the past few days. We're really been half Pacers. It's so cool.
They're fun, man.
So this notion, and before we even get into matchups, all of that, this notion that the Celtics are going to carry anything mentally over. No. The Celtics are going to start fresh.
Yeah.
They're going to see Luka. They're going to see Kyrie, and they're going to be in the NBA Finals, the biggest stage. If you don't think the Celtics are going to take this seriously, then I really have questions about your ability to comprehend who the Celtics have been all of this time. These are the exact type of games that Boston does get up for. So that number one, the Celtics mentality, all of these criticisms, watch even the disappointing Celtics of the past few years. How many stinkers have they shown up for in big moments? They had that one against the Bucks this year when it was the fifth game and that they had no gas. And then what was it? The Clippers, they had
Lakers. The Lakers were, I think, were
without LeBron
and AD, I believe.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm saying. I thought they had one with the Clippers that they traded.
The Clippers did blow them out. I think you're right about that. Yeah.
So it's
but the Clippers had good players available. Them not showing up against the Lakers was kind of unforgivable.
That was the thing. That was that frustrating. Oh God, Celtics, you're doing this again. So I don't know. What I'm saying is these are the games that the Celtics show up for. So that's the one thing that you talk about 30,000 foot analysis that the highest level analysis just to start is mentally. I expect the Celtics to be there. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a week of, oh man, the Celtics, they swept, but they didn't look good. They had to come back. Meanwhile, if the Mavericks sweep, they have trailed in the last 5 minutes of every game against the Timberwolves. They actually have to come back in all of those games as well. But people aren't going to say anything about the Mavs doing it because it's against a better team, right? They're supposed to trail against the Timberwolves. So anyway, I feel like we're gonna get a week of the Mavs, the hot team. They're the, oh my God, look how great they are. They got the best player in the series. Do they have the two best players in the series? And all these debates, and they're gonna come in and it's gonna be Boston's gonna be oh yeah, by the way, we're the number one team. 20 point smackdown in game one. Everybody's gonna go, oh, right. They're actually good.
Yeah. I don't know about a 20-point smackdown in game one, maybe. I do think that one thing that's going to happen is we're going to get to game one and everybody's going to remember like, oh, like Luka and Kyrie are both going to have to defend in this series.
That's a big
like,
thing.
like they're going to have to, and they're going to have to do it well because it doesn't matter who you put them on. The Celtics will just involve that guy in the action and
Absolutely.
they'll just run that. And I'm not making any serious predictions about this. I respect Luka. I respect Kyrie. Sorry, Celtics fans. I kind of like the way he's played this year. Sorry, but either way, both those guys are gonna get like it's like what's what the Celtics like to do. They like to target guys, and the Mavs have had some nice ways of kind of piecing things together, but Celtics offense is a lot different than the Timberwolves offense.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I mean, especially if Porzingis is back, especially if he's looking healthy, even if it's 25 minutes, you get 25 healthy minutes of Kristaps Porzingis. That Celtics offense is a different animal. So it'll be real interesting.
It's going to be real interesting. And we'll dive into all that stuff, but that's the Celtics coming out. I feel like they're going to be focused like we haven't seen them in a while. Right. I think we saw them focused after game 2 of we saw them focus in game 1 of the Heat series. And then they botched game 2, which was, the Heat shooting 80% from 3 or whatever.
Right. Yes.
And then games 3 and 4 was like smackdown. Like they came back and refocused. And then I think ever since then, it's just been like a little bit of 80% max kind of effort.
Well, Porzingis has been out. Porzingis has been out, and the numbers have been good. I don't know. I don't think that they've been their best.
No, I don't think they've been their best. But
certainly not.
But they've still been really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't think they've been their best because I don't think they've had to be their best. And they've had stretches of being their best. And people are like, why? Most
notably, the last 3 minutes of every game in this Pacers series.
That's right. And they flex it when they need to flex it. And you sit there and you say, well, it's the playoffs. Why aren't you flexing it more? Like, well, I don't know, but they're also 12-2, and they're in the NBA Finals, so they did what they had to do to win the games. And give the other team some credit for making it look like maybe I'm wrong. Like, give some credit to the other teams for making them look like frustrated and looking bad. Maybe it was an effort. Maybe it was just frustration. Like Jaylen Brown saying after game 3, like they turn around, people were turning into effing Michael Jordan. And we're like, what's going on? We couldn't figure it out. Like that to me was a very kind of like inside look of those guys. Like you're trying to play a certain way. And you can say, well, maybe if they played 100%, it wouldn't have happened, whatever, chicken and egg, who knows? But that to me made me feel like the Celtics were frustrated. And we've talked about like the don't feel sorry for yourself. And once they stopped that, they felt better and they did what they had to do. But to me, it's just a whole different animal heading into the finals.
Yeah, I agree. It's so funny to look at, right? Because I think what you've got, right, is you got a Heat series where there was one outlier game that made everybody go, whoa, is this team it like happened early enough that everybody was like, I don't know if they got it. And then, they smacked them a bunch of times. Then you've got, I think the Cavaliers series is the one where Donovan Mitchell goes down and you see the letdown, right? Like you can see it's just like, okay, we got this. And they did, but also like, that's where you see a little bit of the questionable play of like, okay, they got through.
Yeah.
And then again, I don't know how many times we need to say it. I think you get to the Pacers series and it's like, this is a close sweep. The Celtics are clearly better than the Pacers, but the Pacers are good. And that's why all these games look close. Yeah. And so it's just like, I think like not looking at the whole picture. If you look at the whole picture, I feel like there's like a couple of games against the Cavs that you can really pick out and be like, man, they just, I don't know how hard they were trying. And it's like, I don't think they tried as hard as they could have against the Donovan Mitchell-less Cleveland Cavaliers. I think that's fair to say. But when you look at the rest of the playoff run, I don't think I have seen nothing that makes me think, oh, when the finals against Luka and Kyrie roll around and TD Garden is rocking, like that this team is not going to be up for it. Like they're going to be up for it. It's going to be it's going to be a good series.
And that's, we'll wrap it up here. But there's one last point there. The Garden is going to be rocking because the Garden was not rocking against Cleveland.
Donovan Mitchell-less Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, the Garden did not, that series felt like a regular season series. It got up a little bit more for the Pacers series, but with Kyrie in town and it being the NBA Finals, that building is going to be nuts. And that's going to bring the energy up. And look, the media is going to be different. The finals are so different. Everything changes. You don't practice in your practice facility. You got to practice at the arena. The entire arena changes. The configuration changes just to accommodate all the media. Your obligations are different. The timing, the pace of your day is different. Everything changes. So none of what happened really matters anymore. It's about what happens in the moment, like you said. And that it goes beyond the court. Figuring what can you figure out right now to get you through to the next moment? Because there's a lot going on. All right, Tom. We got a lot of podcasting to do.
Hey.
A lot of podcasting to do. All week, next week. Season's over in a few weeks.
That's crazy, man.
Season's over.
That's really wild.
And I'm gonna find out the answer to the question. Can you podcast live from a parade? That's gonna be my question. All right, Tom. Appreciate you as always.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
And I always appreciate you, the listener, the watcher, here, checking out the podcast. If you're new, welcome aboard. Hope you enjoyed that podcast. Podcasts are coming Monday through Friday. They're happening on the weekends when they play on the weekends. Bonus podcast, if something happens, will be there for you somehow, some way. You got tons of content coming from the Locked On Celtics podcast. As always, check out the other podcasts on the network. I'm assuming Locked On Mavs is going to have something to celebrate soon. Locked On Mavericks, Locked On Mavs. Check them out. Nick Angstead. This is going to be a nice little battle between us, between our two channels. Gird your loins. Prepare yourselves for a flood of Mavs fans. This isn't going to be the nice, polite Pacers fans who are like, oh, this was nice. We had a good time. Mavs fans are going to be nuts, insufferable. Get ready. Get ready to give it to the Locked On Mavs YouTube page. This is going to be a fight. We're fighting too. So go check it out there. Make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell on the YouTube page. Get into the comments section. Defend the podcast's honor. And share the podcast. Spread the word. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Podcast Network here. Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.